Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining our webinar. Just wanted to let you know that we will be starting our fall sale at Endow come this Friday, so be on the lookout for an email in your inbox. And if you haven't signed up for a newsletter yet, be sure to go to our website, endowgroups.org, and get signed up so you can get an awesome deal. Thanks so much. We'll see you in just a few minutes. And then start the webinar. Should be getting some people coming in. There we go. Welcome in, everyone. We're just about to get started here. Hope you all are doing well with all the craziness of going back to school and storms whipping through the Midwest and everything else going on. 2020 has not left us idle, I'll put it that way. We have a new face with us today, not Deacon Luke, but here is Deacon Luke, Sister Mary Lisa. And we also have a few more people joining us, so thank you so much for continuing to sign up. I hope you're able to find the videos online. So we'll do an opening prayer, and then I'll have everybody go around and introduce themselves again, so you'll get to know Sister Mary Lisa, and for those who are new, you'll get to know all of us. So I'll begin as we do in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Dear Lord, please guide our discussion today. Thank you for all of those who have joined us, who are participating. We pray for all of those who defend life from conception to natural death. We pray for continued courage and wisdom for them. We pray for all of those who are struggling with fertility, with pregnancy, just for continued protection for them and for the life within them. We ask for the intercession of Saint Gianna Molla, that she would pray for us, for our discussion, and for all of the needs we hold in the silence of our hearts. We ask this in your name, amen. Well, I'll start. My name is Katie Smith. I am the Executive Director of Endow, and I'm so excited to be talking about Humanae Vitae and pro-life issues, and I think it's so timely, and especially with the 52nd anniversary this past July. So that's who I am. I'm going to go around kind of clockwise. So Katie Zelenis, I'll have you introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Katie Zelenis. I am honored to be the Executive Director of Couple to Couple League, and we're going to be celebrating our 50th Jubilee year starting in October. My husband and I have been involved for over 30 years, and we're just very grateful. We want to pay back all the really wonderful lifestyle that this led us into, and so we're doing that by being part of this organization.
Well, thanks, Katie. Leah?
I'm never sure which order you go in because it looks like on my screen.
Different. If I click away from my screen, it rearranges all of you.
Sorry, I was not ready. My name is Leah Jacobson. I'm a wife and a mom in central Minnesota. I'm also the CEO and the founder of the Guiding Star Project, and I specialize in work in women's healthcare as a lactation consultant and as somebody who really just helps build women up about the natural goodness and beauty of their feminine creation. So.
Thank you. Okay, Deacon Luke, we'll go to you next.
Deacon Luke Doyle, transitional deacon of the Archdiocese of Kansas City in Kansas. I am getting ready to move back to St. Louis here in about a week for the last year, hopefully the last year, of seminary formation. So that means, God willing, I will be ordained a Catholic priest next May in Kansas City. I am, as you can see, the masculine genius on the panel. My siblings have gotten a great kick out of that, but it's been a great joy to be with you, and looking forward to today's discussion.
Awesome. I'm going to jump up. Well, it's in the middle of my screen. Catherine Smith, I'll have you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Catherine Smith, and I am a graduate student at the Augustine Institute studying leadership for the new evangelization, and I'm also interning with Endow while I finish up my graduate studies. So I'll be actually in the background of the webinar. So if you have any questions, you can write into me and I will answer them.
Thanks, Catherine. Sister Mary Lisa?
I'm Sister Mary Lisa Renfer. I'm a religious sister of mercy.
Uh-oh. It's like she froze. Okay. We'll jump to you, Sister Agnes Mary, and then we'll go back to Sister Mary Lisa, and hopefully she'll be unfrozen.
Okay. I'm Sister Agnes Mary. I'm also a religious sister of mercy.
Oh,
She's
unfrozen.
I froze. Sorry, everyone.
That's okay. Take it away, Sister Mary Lisa.
It's okay. I don't know what you heard.
Not much.
Okay. I'm Sister Mary Lisa, Sister of Mercy, also a family medicine physician. So I've been in Mason City, Iowa the last 4 years, and then just got reassigned to Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm working for a mobile clinic here. So that's why I'm in a warehouse. So I'm sorry about the internet. I'm also in training for the Creighton model of natural family planning. So that's a little bit of my background.
Wonderful. Okay. Now Sister Agnes Mary.
I'm Sister Agnes Mary, also a religious sister of mercy. I am currently in Winona, Minnesota, studying to become a family nurse practitioner. And I also teach fertility care, the Creighton model. So that's the background.
Thanks so much, everyone. So for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, we as panelists are going to discuss for about the first 30 minutes. And then at the 30-minute mark, we'll open up for questions. So you can continue to ask questions and type in, and Catherine will answer those. To do that, at the bottom of your screen, there's like 2 little chat bubbles. Just type in there. To raise your hand at the half-hour mark, there should be a little waving hand at the bottom of your screen. Press that and we'll know to call on you. And we try to call on everybody in the order that they come in. So we'll open that up, like I said, right about the halfway mark. So we're in chapter 6 of the Endow study, which focuses on Humanae Vitae, paragraphs 17 and 18. We're gonna move 19 to next week because it's more of the pastoral side. But a quick overview. It's amazing how prophetic Pope Paul VI was in what he said, both in how we as a society would react and how, I was bringing this up right before, how there would be a failure to listen. And you can see that in all of the statistics that are particularly on page 94 and 95. But just how much foresight he had in looking and seeing, like, okay, if we fail to respect men and women in the unique way that they were created, and that they were created for goodness, truth, beauty, and life, that's going to have consequences on who we are as a society. And so I've just been reflecting on that since I've read this, and then what can we do to counter that, both through education, but also through how do we reinvigorate and get people to re-encounter that truth, goodness, and beauty. So I'll open it up to my other panelists here about what stood out to you, what you, how this impacts you both personally and professionally.
I can start. I just wanted to say there was lots to touch on in this particular section, but for me, it just brought to mind, I was reflecting on Dr. Janet Smith's, her groundbreaking work on contraception, why not? So she actually has a website, Contraception Why Not, and you can download her talk there, but it is astounding to let people know exactly what all the side effects are of birth control pill, physically, emotionally, mentally, you name it. And you put that pill in your mouth and it's a whole different ball game, from the people that you attract to how your body works. And we had one of the teachers that we teach couple to couple. So the man pulls out the insert for the drugs, right? The big long insert with all the warnings. And he said, he lets it open up and fall to the floor, cascade to the floor. And he said, yeah, not asking my wife to put up with this, or be at risk for this stuff. And I just want to say, it's of all the things we're talking about some really beautiful, the beauty and truth of that we're made in the image and likeness of God. But I really want to say, for the amount of people that are on the pill, just how it affects your mentality, your body, how even it's crazy how we even attract different, men or men for women or so forth. It's kind of wow, that impact is amazing, and it's kind of tilts the card game. So I just really have compassion for my sisters who are on this, and you know, we work every day to try to provide an alternative and try to you know, testify to the truth that you don't have to be on it, because boy, when you're on it, like you said, Katie, the you know, his prophecy, it's just down to the person. I mean, it's not even, I mean, it's not fair pool. It's not fair game. So anyway, that was just my thought. And go download her talk if you haven't heard it yet. It's free.
Well, yeah, we'll make sure to include her in the resources. And then we actually did a podcast interview with her as well. So we'll put that up, and she does talk about about her writings. So. Leah?
Yeah, I want to comment on both personally and professionally, like how the second part of paragraph 17 really struck me about, you know, who will prevent public authorities from favoring these contraceptive methods, you know, and they may even impose their use on everyone because they're considered to be more effective. And that really struck me, first of all, as the mother of a 12-year-old daughter who is just doing her back to school physical to get back, you know, into sports. And as a 7th grader, she's required to talk with a doctor. And at age 12, you know, I'm having to elbow my way into the room to sit with her because it's considered best practice and good medicine for them to be, you know, promoting contraception at an age where she's not even close to ready for this. And so that paragraph really struck me first personally, but then also professionally, just understanding that, you know, a lot of the grants and a lot of the public funding for maternal wellness initiatives in our country, with Guiding Stars, a healthcare organization focused on maternal wellness, we've really sacrificed the health of women for this idea that suppressing fertility and planning their family is more important than their health, you know, as a mother and as a woman. And so we can see we have terrible maternal health outcomes in our country, but yet we've got really high contraceptive rates. So wonderful. And it struck me as I was looking just this last week, I was doing research into title funding, Title V funding actually. And it was talking about the requirement of getting women on long-acting contraceptives, either before they leave the hospital after delivering a baby or at their 6-week postpartum check, that this is the standard for healthcare, and for receiving government funding, that is what you need to do. And so we have really gone a long way into this, that this is being imposed in one way or another, you know, through our doctor's offices or through societal pressure. We're there. That paragraph was like, oh gosh, that was quite the foresight, because that's where we are right now.
Yeah. I mean, you look at what happened with the Health and Human Services mandate and everything, you know, I mean, the Little Sisters of the Poor, I think it was, well, while we've been doing this study, we're finally just awarded or told that they didn't have to provide contraception based on the law. But that took what, 8, 9 years, 10 years? I'd have to go back and look at the history, but it was a long time. Sister Mary Lisa?
So just when you were talking and just reading through this again, I mean, just how pastoral the church is in this, and Pope Paul VI, first of all, in what he saw coming and in the way that he speaks into this, and really brings out the lie that contraception brings freedom, right? So when he's talking about this, I think, you know, people were so surprised because this will be freedom for women, but he saw what was going to happen with this. And so as a family med physician who did OB last several years, that was over and over again, women would come in and they would say, I don't want to take this, but I have to, which is unbelievable if you think about it. Like, where's the freedom in that, right? And so it was great to have those conversations with so many women who had been on birth control pills since they were 12, since they were little girls, never really got to know their body at all, to say this is not part of who you are as a woman, that you have to be on contraception, and it's actually against who you are as a woman, you know. And you know how Pope Paul VI really points out that we are made for freedom, we're made to be who we are. And so this, you know, contraception really works against that. And the church is always going to call us to be who we're truly made to be, and for the greater good of who we are. So it just struck me again reading this. And then, you know, as Leo was pointing out, how on the greater scale that it really works against our freedom as a society too, right? So this, you know, we're opening ourselves up to this kind of oppression from the government when we're giving into this lie about freedom. So just again, the beauty of Pope Paul VI in this, every time I read it, it's just amazing to see, you know, his foresight in that, and that's, you know, this is what the church is for us, to help us, to lead us closer to the Lord, lead us into that freedom of who we're made to be.
Yeah, I think Sister Agnes Mary, I don't want to take yours, but I think at the beginning of the paragraph, paragraph 17, which is on page 93, talking about forgetting the reverence due to a woman would be one of the big results of contraception, and just how much we've seen that in our society.
And one of the beauties, I've had the privilege during COVID to spend more time with young engaged couples on Zoom. And the beauty of, I give them the option, husband, you can do the charting, wife, you can do the observing. And as the man sees and discusses with his wife, you see this, the reverence to a woman in these young men who really, this is a deep level of intimacy between spouses, to understand your wife in a different way and to communicate it, and to be invited into that kind of special, intimate area. And it makes the man more manly, like he becomes more of a man. But what I've also seen in some couples that I was working with that had contracepted for 20 plus years in their marriage, and then had suffered truly the medical consequences and could no longer take these artificial hormones because they're bad for you, that piece was missing, that reverence due to the woman, because they had frankly been using each other and never had to learn that self-control piece, and to see the other as, you know, a beautiful, your spouse, a beautiful gift, and the reverence due to the spouse. So,
yeah. And I think we've seen that too in things like, you know, you had mentioned before, like human trafficking, the Me Too movement, all of this has kind of cropped up, and, you know, it's as a result. If we're going to teach that people are objects and use one another, well, then naturally, of course, things like human trafficking are gonna be a result of it, because we become an object rather than made in the image and likeness of God, who we truly are. Deacon Luke, do you have masculine genius to add?
I don't know about that, but I was on a retreat this last week, and it was really beautiful to just take time away with the Lord and to focus on growing in friendship with him, and kind of entered into conversation with him about just the last many years of my life, of how he has called me and how I've tried to run from it and hide from it and seek control of my life, and just receiving the personal reminder from him that I am most fully free, most fully alive, most fully who I was made to be, when I am living out of trust and surrender in him and in the Father. And my life is one of submission rather than like battle with him for control. And I really received a number of really kind of beautiful graces from this past week, but one of which was really allowing the Lord to solidify, I think, more fully in me, the appreciation and love for spiritual fatherhood that he's given to me, and being able to really recognize the gift that is. And I think in one sense, even still in the church, we might see our priests, our bishops, our leaders, maybe even the Pope at times, as people who are like not really connected to families, who don't really know what that, you know, living marriage on a daily basis is like, or what have you there. But just to hold up once more the beauty of celibacy, the beauty of spiritual fatherhood, that it really is love himself, truth himself, goodness himself, that a religious vocation is in a very real sense wedded to. And we have a lot to say as to how truth, goodness, beauty, love should be manifested in our world, but specifically in the family. And so I think this is a really beautiful reflection of Pope Paul VI, knowing who the human person is, knowing what real love looks like, and then being able to say, okay, if we get these wrong, here are the consequences. And, we're free. We don't have to say yes to either of those things. But when we choose not to acknowledge the truth of what real love is, the truth of who the human person is, those kinds of things, that we're setting ourselves up for a fall. So kind of like seeing that, processing that. Then also what really impacted me in reading this was the whole gift that I am being entrusted as a future priest, of being able to minister to families and to couples at a time when Pope Francis says we are a field hospital, loving and trying to defend people who are bleeding out. It's bad. And so in one sense, I mean, these statistics are horrifying, to see that what did the study say? In 1970, there were 500,000 some couples that were living together before getting married. And now in 2020, or whenever the study was made, it's 18 million. And so we got real serious problems, but we also know where the answers are. And so I think it's beautiful to have that reminder that, okay, the church absolutely has something to say in defense of humanity, in defense of love, in defense of marriage, in defense of the family. And what a gift and an honor it is personally for me as a future priest to give my life in defense of that. That in a weird way, choosing celibacy is the most pro-love and pro-family move that I can make with my life. And it's a tremendous honor and grace to be able to do that.
Thank you, Deacon Luke. That's beautiful. One of the things that was coming to mind as you were talking about this, and then coupled with what Leah had said earlier about her daughter, is how I know that there's a lot of moms who are listening. And so how do we help our children through, the situation, not only from the theological side of holding up what is authentically who we are, but also practically from going into the doctor and the pervasiveness of all right, well, we're going to separate you from your parents and give you some sort of other talk. What resources are out there? I know, Katie, you've got a few things going on.
Yeah, I know Leah does too. So I think we're putting together a mother-daughter area, and it will have one of the doctors is going to record on how to talk to the doctor and that you have a right to say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not leaving you alone with my child. I don't have to. And that's a minor child. It's my child. And talking to the daughters about, do they have to be pulled over in school and be indoctrinated? No. So we'll have that as part of it, and we'll have resources, and we'll be pointing to, Leah has a program, and we have a few other partners. FEM has a program, and Teen Star is another great program. So we're, people can learn and they can go out and be evangelists, and you can find the right program that works for your community or, your family or yourself. So we're excited to that'll be out in October, I think. So we'll be kind of just joining everybody else in the effort to help young women and moms.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know that will definitely be a question. Leah, go ahead.
I really like how Deacon Luke was talking about just that call to fatherhood, understanding spiritual fatherhood, because really I think that has also fallen away in the last 50 to 60 years in many ways. As the women's movement has risen, that voice has gotten louder. In many ways, the masculine voice has decreased in our culture, and the voice of father in particular, because really, what's a good dad do for his daughters? He tells her, you are good, you are worthy. And our church is a source of fatherhood in our culture for us. And so having those good relationships with our priests, with having them in our homes. Actually, it's kind of funny. We have a new priest at our parish, and he's coming to our home for dinner tonight. So I'm clean the house. It's running all over, trying to clean the house. But making that conscious effort to have that voice of father put back into our daughters' lives, our children's lives, but specifically our daughters, because that is the great lie that Satan has sold us in this last generation, is that there is something fundamentally wrong with you. And we can fix that. The doctors can fix that. Culture can fix that. You can be enough if you do these things, dress this way, do this job. But all of that's a lie. All of it's a lie. You know, the Father's voice that you are beloved needs to be heard in our homes. So
Yeah.
we're doing that effort by inviting our priest over. If you haven't had your priest over for dinner, you should probably do so.
Yeah, I actually interviewed one of the directors for formation at Mount St. Mary's Seminary, Monsignor Michael Hines, and he said that that's one of the things he tells his seminarians is like, you have to be friends with couples in your parish. You have to get to know them because they're going to keep you grounded and help you to realize the reality of what married life is like. And at the same time, married couples, like, you need your priests, you need them to be in your home, for your daughters to meet them, for your sons to meet them, to see what spiritual fatherhood is all about. So I think, yeah, Leah and Katie, great points about that, like working in tandem. We need both a practical education of how do we approach a doctor, how do we, know our rights and know what is available to us from just a pure education standpoint, but also then how do we reinforce that theologically through the relationships in our parish and in our community.
I think a huge point as well, Katie, is just giving ourselves over to living real love and making service of real love our mission. Because we live in a world today that, right, I mean, love can mean literally whatever we want it to mean today. But I was reading a reflection on my retreat of Archbishop Fulton Sheen, and in it he's reflecting on how in the end times, I'm not saying that we're in the end times, but in the end times, that Satan and Jesus, the Christ and the Antichrist, will look like super similar, and it will be next to impossible to be able to tell them apart from each other. And then Fulton Sheen says, but it will be obvious to Christians who have modeled their lives after the love of Christ to be able to recognize the Antichrist for what he is, because Satan will bear no scars. And I think that really impacted me, of how Christ is always going to put us in situations where we are invited to love in a way that is unselfish. And so that means that we will be called to self-sacrifice. We will be called to a love that will wound us, that will force us to make a gift of ourselves and love to other people. And so this is a love that every person is called to: a priest, a religious sister, a 12-year-old girl, a mom, a dad. But I think to the extent that that kind of love is seen and acknowledged and wanted and lived within our homes, that's going to pay huge dividends for individuals and for families in the future. Because, I mean, that's what real love is. Real love calls us to be victims, calls us to be willing victims who choose to make that gift of self, that crucifixion of self out of a desire for good for the other. And I think the love that our world champions today is a fake love. It's a cheap imitation and a mockery of what real love is. And it's a love that really has me at the center of it, where it's basically self-seeking and self-worshiping, but it's also just cheap and easy. And at the end of the day, it's a love that does not call me to make a gift of myself and others. So real love is cheap and easy. Real love is safe because I can control it. But that's, fake love is safe, cheap and easy. Real love is not those things, but that's what we're called to. And we don't need to have a master's degree in theology to find those opportunities to choose that. Like, it's in front of us every day, especially in the home.
I have a quick question for the panel. I know we're getting near our half hour, but one of the things that I've been, concerned about, I think everyone, is the politically correct stifling of free speech, websites being delisted or the rank removed for, so forth. I know, like, for fertility awareness, Planned Parenthood's #1. I know that they don't share the correct statistics for some reason about natural family planning. So you're curious, like, from you guys' perspective, like, I'm very concerned about this going forward. I don't know that I feel powerful enough to fix it, or even that I know it'll be happening to me. So I just wanted to ask you guys like what your thoughts were on that.
That is a really good question, Katie. I think one of the things that has helped me is before I went to grad school, I lived in Portland, which was one of the most not only non-religious but also anti-religious cities in the country. And when I was able to move out of that and see like, oh, okay, there's other people out there that think like me, like we've got a chance. And I mean, we have Jesus on our side. Like wherever there is truth, I think I highlighted this quote of Saint Augustine's, but the truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. Let it loose. It will defend itself. But knowing that we have each other, I think is so key and huge. And I think we need to do whatever we can to break down those silos, to work together, to figure out how can we all be on the same page and working with one another.
I think the answer, I don't mean this to sound pious and lofty. I think I'm proposing it as a real solution, is holiness. In a world that totally bought into the facade even 15, 20, 25 years ago, like Mother Teresa was like this anomaly of, I mean, just a beacon of truth, goodness, beauty, joy, love. I mean, it amazes me how, this lie that the Catholic Church is anti-woman and is hateful and gets love wrong. Like, I mean, how the heck can you reconcile that with Mother Teresa, right? Or John Paul II or people like that. And so I think the best argument that we will give, the best argument that people experience on a daily basis is not one that comes from the news. It's not one that's found via Google or Facebook or anything like that. I think it's the witness of holiness. It's something that has personally inspired and changed my life. And it's something that I have seen personally inspire and change other people through me. Of like, people interact with this crazy deacon in Kansas City. I think a lot of times they're left with the question of like how can you be like that? How can you have nothing yet your life is, I don't know, like so joyful or whatever. I think it's the witness of holiness is, for 2,000 years, it's what has converted literally the Roman Empire and so many other nations and places in between. So giving ourselves over to loving Jesus and loving like Jesus, and the fruit of those two things is holiness.
Leah, I think you at one point had taken yourself off mute.
Yeah, no, I think it's very easy to be afraid right now. I think it's, be not afraid. How many times does it say that in the Bible? I've heard like 365 or something, like one for every day of the year. I don't know if that's actually right. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
it's close. It's not quite, but it's close.
Okay, well, I'm going with mine. So you can prove me wrong with a number. 365 times. No. But that idea of, he's never leaving us alone. Yesterday, that feast day St. Clair, he promised, I will always defend, I will always be there. I will always protect you and defend you. And that going into this time, it's going to be dark potentially. It could be really icky potentially. I mean, in the study guide, it's talking about, Nazi Germany, and it's talking about horrible human atrocities. And some of these things sound similar right now, and some of these things feel familiar to us. And you look at the stories of the heroes, that came out of Nazi Germany, the saints that rose, and those witnesses of holiness and light during that time. Every one of us has the capacity to be that. We can all be that Maximilian Kolbe. We can all be that Edith Stein. So just gotta be holy.
Jesus does his best work inside of tombs when it looks like death has won. And so when it looks like the game is over, darkness has won, there's no reason to hope. We're the Easter people. Like this is like literally our faith is built on top of death looking like it's won and then it being flipped upside down. And so this is a time to really to live that gift of hope and that gift of joy that Christ has unleashed through Easter.
Sisters, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna, really quick. So yes, the hope is so important. And I think that Pope Paul VI at the end of this too, in that second paragraph, when he talks about, you know, if we follow this, this is how the church contributes to a truly human civilization. And there's a lot of hope there. I mean, there's these pockets of beauty that we have, you know, when we talk about these things together and we open it up. I think it is easy to be caught in fear and to be caught in like, what is going to happen? What is going on right now? But remember, the Lord has already won, and to make that act of faith. I just want to emphasize that importance of, you know, sometimes when you look and you're like, I don't know how this is going to be possible. How am I going to be able to do this? This happens to us all the time in life. To stop and say, you know, I believe that you have won. I'm going to make that act of faith and keep moving forward. And he always opens a way. So that's really the day-to-day choice that you make, is to keep making that act of faith and keep moving forward. And just to remember that the Holy Spirit is creative. So sometimes if it looks like one door is shut, there's another one that's going to open. So, you know, the Spirit's at work. It's probably a good sign that you're being attacked and trying to be suppressed, that, you know, you're doing this work and it's important. But the Holy Spirit is at work, and the Spirit is creative. So there's always going to be a way. So just remembering that, and again, making that act of faith every day, sometimes multiple times a day, when it seems like, you know, again, it's impossible. The Lord is always at work. And he's at work in every heart. And so just remembering that when you're having conversations throughout the day, the Lord is at work in each person in ways that we can't see. So there's a lot of hope there. Just keep moving forward.
Thanks, Sister Mary Lisa. Any other comments? I know we're a little over the halfway mark, so I was going to open it up for Q&A from the participants. Okay, great. All right, let's see, Valerie, your hand is up first, so let me get you in here. Hey, Valerie.
Hiya.
How are you?
Good, thank you. I just want to thank you for a really, really good discussion. So I only discovered theology of the body when I was in my 20s, and I'd never heard of it from anybody in the church before, despite going to a Catholic school till I was 16, and having quite deep conversations with my parish priest. I was wondering how you would suggest, as a layperson, we can encourage theology of the body earlier, because by the time you're in your 20s, I mean, it's obviously never too late, but there's so much I wish I'd known before, and so much I wish I'd known as a teenager, encountering relationships, not just with boys, but with other girls, and kind of working through what it means to be a girl and a Catholic. What worked for you in your parishes?
Yeah, go ahead, Leah. That's a great question, Valerie.
I think I'm really blessed. I'm in the Duluth Diocese of Minnesota. Something called the Tobit Retreat for our high schoolers, and it's the Theology of the Body Immersion for Teens. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I hope every diocese in the world gets. We're really blessed. We've got Father Mike Schmitz here, and so he does the retreat for all of our teenagers, and I send my kids and I go speak at it sometimes. But it's like a 2 to 3 day intensive retreat of how God made man, how God made woman, and then how God made them to interact with one another in whatever the vocation is that you're being pulled towards. And so these kids' minds are just blown. Every diocese needs to have something like that happening for them. And this is a 9th through 12th grade retreat. And then they have other talks, you know, for middle schoolers. But before they leave their parents' roof, before they head out to college, they should know that.
Yeah.
It's a failure of the church if they don't.
That's a great point. Yeah, I grew up in the Diocese of Salt Lake City, which they're trying, but they've got all kinds of issues being a minority in a predominantly Mormon area. So yeah, definitely no opportunity like that. So I had the same question as you, Valerie.
Yeah.
Katie, go ahead. I think you took yourself off mute.
Just to mention that Real Woods has a whole curriculum from little kids on. So that's based on theology of the body, which is beautiful. And I'm trying to think who else.
Can you say the name again, Katie? I was going to write it down. So
I'll send you the link. So it's Real Woods. It's like RUAH, I think. Woods. But anyway, they have a beautiful one. And I'm trying to think what else, guys. There's another one I can't remember.
There are books written actually for teenagers too, like Theology of the Body for Teens.
Yeah.
Christopher West has got something out there, I believe.
Yeah, Good News Book Fair is you know, becoming an alternative to Scholastica. They have a full range of, you know, all sorts of books that are, you know, hopefully available in the Catholic schools that cover some of that stuff.
Brilliant. And I had one more question, a slightly tangential. So I'm currently in the UK, and there's just so much in America for Catholics. I lived for a year in LA when I was in my that's when I encountered theology, when I was 23, went to St. Monica's in California, and realized just how much support and how many resources there were, and how much we were missing. And I was just wondering if anybody had any ideas on how people outside of America could possibly tap into some of those resources, or whether there were any links that you knew of, not just specifically in the UK, but that had international links that people could tap into.
Valerie, I think just initially, a lot is solved through and a lot is solved through getting, as Leah said, getting to know your priests and inviting them over, and then, you know, proposing some of these kinds of things, or invite, hey, Father, I don't know if you've encountered this or not, but this seems like a really awesome program or whatnot.
Yeah.
I have a couple good friends in the UK who are Catholic priests, who a lot of times when I'm talking to them, there's give and take of, hey, what are you doing in your parish? That sounds awesome. Like, maybe we should try and implement that here. So just encouraging and empowering the people that you experience the church with on a daily basis to look not just inwards, but also outwards. And, you know, to not be afraid to admit that maybe Father so-and-so down the street in Duluth, Minnesota is doing a really good job with us, and we can learn from his example. You know, technology is such that there's no reason why we can't embrace more fully the universal family of the church to unleash the theology of the body.
Yeah, I think that's been a huge blessing and grace that's come out of COVID, is that a lot of everything moved online. So previously, I know shipping has been, it still is such a challenge of getting resources, you know, all throughout the world. But now, fortunately, I think a lot more things are opening up, just having online webinars, but then also, you know, downloadable PDFs, ebooks, things like that. So it does require some research, but I think at any point in history, kind of now is the time when that's actually becoming more available throughout the world. But Valerie, you're right. Yeah, it's we were in Ireland, which is predominantly Catholic, and I was actually kind of surprised at the lack of resources when I was over there, of like, oh, there's like nothing at the back of church, and I'm not hearing of anything that's going on, and there's no bulletin.
Yeah, there's no kind of ongoing adult formation really, which I'm trying to work on with my parish, but you know, we'll get there. Thank you. Thank you very much,
Valerie. Yep, of course. Okay, let's see, Karen, I'm gonna go ahead and
hear me?
Yes. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Hi, fine. I'm going to pull off the side of the road. I'm on my way to a doctor's appointment.
Oh, geez. Okay. Be safe.
Appointments to hear this. But what I would like to say, giving a little bit of a different twist, but adding on to what you're saying, is that NFP carries into postmenopause. And I think I've told you, Katie, or some of you at one point, my husband and I just celebrated 47 years of marriage. And so anyway, I'm talking from some experience. Let me give you a little background on that. The first few years we were married, a religious sister, had said that, oh yeah, you can use a pill. He was in school. You can use the pill as long as you intend to have children. Well, that's not what the encyclical is all about. Quite clearly, it's against that. You have to start out being open to life. Then so when my husband and I, prior to our first son, went to our first CCL NFP class, they stated very clearly, the pill is an abortifacient. So as we were walking to our car, I told my husband, I said, I can't do this anymore. We can't do this anymore. Okay, end of that story. And then after my second son was born, of course, you know, we're using NFP. A friend of mine who was working with CCL and I were promoters at that point. Kathy was a nurse, her husband was a doctor. They had a PDF, physician's desk reference, in their, or PDR, in their house. And she pointed out to me the long list of side effects from taking the pill, one of which was it's a carcinogenic, which maybe some people read that and they don't realize it's a cancer causer. So that was another thing. Oh my gosh. So then 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was one cell that had just left that particular area. There's a name for it, and probably sisters, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, I was very lucky. I had surgery, clean margins, radiation, no chemo, and I was one of the lucky ones. I'm a survivor.
Yeah.
September marks my 5 years,
Wow.
and I would have a diagnostic mammo at that point, but the radiation oncologist is very optimistic about there not being anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so backpedal a little bit to after I had the surgery and I was going through the radiation, there was a support group near the hospital. They offered classes. One of the classes I took involved 8 women. All of us had or being diagnosed, whatever, with breast cancer. I think there were about 5 or 6 sessions of that class. One of the classes lent itself very clearly to me bringing up this business of it being a carcinogenic and so forth. Do you think any of those women believe me? No, not a one, which goes along to what you just said about not listening. You know, there was, I mean, they turned against me. That was it. They didn't want to hear from me anymore.
Oh,
So move ahead to the thing with the postmenopause. Granted, you can't, you're not procreative anymore at that point, but you and your husband are still unitive. So you do have that going for you. I cannot tell you, and I wish Reg could hear this, how respectful he is of me. It's amazing. It just really is amazing. So that's all I wanted to say, but it carries through. The whole attitude of natural family planning carries through the rest of your life.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting, Karen. Actually, as you were talking, I was watching some of the Q&A comments, and I know someone wrote in about this even before the session began, but it's a lifelong thing. Like young women and young men, middle school, as soon as they're mature enough to understand, need to understand their bodies and how they work and the power that God has given us for creation. But that lasts your whole lifetime. That doesn't just suddenly, stop all of a sudden, once you go through menopause, or if there's some sort of health issue like that continues. So the education needs to continue as well. We can't just stop learning both from the theological and the practical healthcare side of it. Like the two have to go hand in hand for a lifetime, not just a one and done type of a thing.
If I could just add on to that.
Yeah.
Even sometimes before marriage, before engagement, that young women, and I work a lot with single college women, can learn fertility care or another fertility awareness method to learn more about their bodies, and just to see through the process of learning how to chart cycles or learn more about their fertility, that they can learn kind of the beauty of their creation of the woman's body, and then kind of demand more reverence in a way to say, like, I'm a beautiful woman, like I'm a beautiful creation, and I'm not going to be treated this way or that way by men. And it changes the whole outlook too.
Yeah, Sister Agnes Mary, that was a question I always had when I was fortunate enough to take an NFP class in grad school, which was long before I was married, from an OBGYN. And so I had, learned, and it was like, oh, well, scientifically, this makes sense. Like, this is data. The more data you gather, the more information you have, the better informed you can be. And so then I started to wonder, why on earth do we wait until pre-Cana to teach, and until this woman's engaged, to teach both the men and women about fertility awareness? Because by then you have a very stressed out bride who's trying to plan a wedding, whose cycle is all over the place, and it makes no sense whatsoever, and you don't have years of good data to be able to draw on when that all goes awry. So yeah, very grateful that there's more out there now and that we're realizing this is important to start when they're in middle school, not, wait until right before marriage. So great point, Karen. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
And having all, I guess it's 500 or so of us.
There's over 500 who've signed up. So a lot are watching afterwards. But yeah, there's, I think now at this point, close to 600 who participate, which is amazing. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Take care and God bless.
Yeah, you too. Drive safe.
I will. I'm there. I'm outside the building. I gotta leave.
Good. All right, Jean, I'm gonna go ahead and let you in here. Looks like Zoom updated their settings, so now I have to ask people to unmute. Doesn't work.
Okay.
There we go. Hey, we got it. Welcome.
Thank you. How are you?
Good.
Okay. This is just a follow-up on the previous discussion about carcinogens and everything. But my husband and I teach NFP, and in our classes, we do make this point that the World Health Organization, actually back in 2005, declared that the contraceptives were classified as carcinogenic to humans, and then combined hormonal menopausal therapy also as possibly carcinogenic. So just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Which is insane when you think about that that's still the standard for women's health care.
Yeah. Yep. It is. All right. Anna?
And that we weigh that as a risk, but the benefit, they say, is so much better. Not having to be pregnant, like the risk of, and you're like, that's nuts, but just to help people, how do you help people see that?
Right. That's true. Yeah, Anna.
Okay. Thanks for having me. I am also in the Duluth Diocese with Leah Jacobson, and so we do have TOBIT and great opportunities for people within the church to kind of seek out natural family planning services or those. But my question more focuses on, and you guys really tapped into, show holiness and relationships with priests and all that. But when it comes to confrontational conversation with people that are very for sterilization or very for contraceptives, may it be barrier or hormonal, how do you enter into conversation, or what has been like the most effective way to speak the truth when it's areas of that kind of
Great question, Anna. I think Katie's got a good answer, and then we'll go to Deacon Luke.
Deacon Luke probably has a better answer than I do, but I'll give it a whirl. Just the technique for, the last, the paragraph 18 talks about, the church is a sign of contradiction, right? And so it's unfortunate. That's a real suffering. And Deacon Luke has talked about, offering up our sufferings for this. So, I would say if the person's very, very, very upset and very confrontational, turning the other cheek is totally fine. Sometimes you just have to pray for them and let them, kind of just pray for them and let them kind of work this out. If they are open to conversation, a really, really, really good technique to use with people is it's a 3-part. And you start out by saying, well, I used to believe A, but then this happened to me and I realized that maybe A wasn't correct. Mm-hmm. So now what I've learned is C. And, it really brings the whole thing that you're trying to say. It's not about them. It's about you. It's about your personal experience. It's about being humble and saying, I was maybe wrong, or I really wasn't sure about this, and then I learned. And so it kind of gives them something that they can think about without being confrontational. So I hope that helps, but that's been a real help for me. And so I'll give you that one.
Yeah. Deacon Luke?
Sure. So a lot of this is coming from experience with 18-year-olds. I was an apologetics teacher to seniors in a Catholic high school in Kansas City, many of whom had the world figured out by the time they made it to senior year. So we had
Yes.
discussions in class, but I think a couple things. One would be, we're free. There's not a person in this world who is not created free to be able to choose whether or not to live their life in accordance with what is true. And so certainly we want to make the case for truth. We want to invite people into that. But as Katie said earlier, the truth is a lion, and it doesn't need me. It doesn't need the Pope. It really, I mean, the truth is a person, and he's the most powerful person in history, right? God. And so we don't need to, when someone comes at us, you know, very, I don't know, agitated or kind of ready for a confrontation, we don't need to lower ourselves to that level. And so that doesn't mean like, you know, blow it off or not acknowledge it. But when someone's coming at me like DEFCON 5 nukes in the air, like, let's go, let's have it out right now, to kind of, you know, just encounter them in a spirit of peaceful engagement and receptivity, to say like, you know what, I would love to have this conversation with you. I'm open to having this conversation with you. I don't have to be right on this, and I don't have to convince you. You're free to choose what to believe and what to do with your life. I have bet my life that this is true, and I think it is. And I'm happy to have that conversation with you about why I think that. But the church is not in the game of forcing people to believe stuff. We profess it's true because it's true, and because it's, I mean, holiness speaks for itself. But so it's when we get into a confrontation, I think it's, I've seen fruit in being able to, if you will, kind of throw holy water, if you will, on the fire. And so to respect the person's freedom, engage them civilly, all those things, but then also to ask good questions of them. And so, you know, when they have all the answers, they have it figured out, they know that this is true, and the Catholic Church has no reason to talk about anything, to start kind of probing why they think that, and what their experience of reality is, and how they see the world and all these things. And I have found, I don't mean this pridefully at all, but I have found when you start doing that, if you will, you're handing the other person rope, and inevitably, if they're defending a position that is not true, good, or beautiful, inevitably they're going to commit intellectual suicide. And so as you keep, you know, handing them the rope, and then, you know, whatnot, and then there will come a point in time where you can say, well, gee, wow, that actually doesn't hold up for these reasons, or that actually contradicts what you just told me 2 minutes ago about this. And so to pray for the grace of, you know, receptivity, to pray for the Holy Spirit to be present in those conversations, to not fight fire with fire, but to fight fire with unselfish love, but also unselfish love for truth. You know, when we suffer for the sake of truth, it's not because we're wanting to do that, or, you know, we think we're holier than people. We just think that life is more fully lived when it's in accordance with what's true and the way things actually are. I don't know if that helps or not, but.
Yes, sorry, my children just walked in. So yes, that is very, very helpful. Sure, hold on. You're going to hear them in the background.
That's good. We like kids.
Yes, it was very helpful. So thank you so much for answering that question.
I'm going to say, I know Anna and her family is absolutely beautiful. She's got the cutest kids, you guys. And Anna, I think my advice to you on this is that you are such a beautiful, like, beacon of joy and happiness. Like, don't ever lower yourself, like he was saying, to like try to fight this in the mud. Like, you have a beautiful example in your home of what is good and true and beautiful. Like, just live your life out loud.
Oh, Leah, thank you so much. Yes, it is such a journey of when people come, and you guys probably experienced this when they know what you do. So I work within a fertility care center here in the Duluth, and it's when friends and family know what you do, and they kind of come to battle with your morality and your discussion, and it's a little bit shaking. So I really like that prayer for grace and that prayer for receptivity. So that's really great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Leah, for your great work, and everybody. I'm going to go feed children.
Thank you so much, Anna. Yeah, to everybody's point, just to reiterate it, like, there's typically a deep wound somewhere if someone is coming at you that strongly and that is that angry. And so some advice that was given to me, which was really helpful, is trying to find out, like, where's the ache? Like, what is it that is so, what harm has been done in the past? And typically that's it, you know. There might have been any number of issues as to why this individual is so against what is true, good, and beautiful. And so helping them, I mean, we're not trained counselors, but as much as you can to try to kind of just bring that out of them. And to Katie's point about the story, you know, using your own story as, I thought this, then this happened, now I think this. It does kind of, it opens up the conversation for them to reveal a bit more about what they're struggling with, and then you can pray for them. So
absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
yeah, thanks, Anna. All right, guys, it looks like we are at our last minute. Any final comments from any of the panelists?
I mean, as Anna was talking, that a key lie in our culture today is that we have to hate people that we disagree with. And, you know, I mean, we think this in the political world, we think this in, you know, when it comes to religion and spirituality and all these things. It seems like sports is the last place where it actually makes sense. That, you know, we can certainly love people that we disagree with, but the importance of just driving that home too, that we have no enemies. Our enemies are not people, our enemies are powers and principalities. So any person that we encounter is a beloved child that we're capable of loving unselfishly. And easier said than done sometimes, but we're, at the end of the day, every person is worthy of love.
That's a great note to end on. Leah, did you have anything else?
No, amen, amen, amen.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everyone. We have 2 more sessions left, so we'll see you all back here next week. And if you're watching the recording, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.